Seeing my painfully single high school life, my mom pulled a total power move and sent me straight to my childhood best friend's school. Rumors said the school's legendary queen bee absolutely refused to date anyone. Word on the street was, she had 3 savage lines to reject guys every single day. People literally wondered if this icy, high and mighty goddess had some allergy to boys until the exact day I transferred in. But get ready for this, because the untouchable queen bee was about to break every single one of her own rules. On day 1, I overheard some arrogant guy bragging that my childhood best friend Elara actually had a massive crush on him. I literally laughed out loud at his total delusion. That made him furious, so he blocked my way out and refused to let me walk past. Thaddeus asked what I was laughing at, so I just glared right back at his arrogant face. I told him, I'm laughing at you simps, your horrible taste, and your pathetic daydreaming. Are we clear now? Thaddeus was ready to throw down and teach me a lesson, but then he noticed Elara walking up from behind out of the corner of his eye. He loudly called out that if I had some issue with them, I should just take it up with him. He yelled there was no need to insult our gorgeous star student Elara, asking the crowd if they said anything wrong. I scoffed. I rolled my eyes and said Elara being the queen bee was a total joke. Did she crown herself? Or did you guys do it? What good is a pretty face anyway? Even if she begged to date me, I wouldn't care. Go chase her, and if you actually win her over, I'll call you Grandpa. Thaddeus immediately apologized to Elara, desperately claiming I was only saying those things to make everyone mad. He had perfectly timed everything just to bait me into saying those exact words. Elara heard every single brutal word I said from right behind my back, meaning I managed to deeply offend the school goddess on my very first day. Thaddeus gloated, thinking that my easy days at this school were officially over. He was smirking inside, but Elara walked right past him like he was dead space, marching straight over to stand right in front of me. She didn't say a single word. Instead, she just threw a terrifying death glare my way and walked into class. I just flipped him the bird and followed her inside, leaving him completely furious. The watching crowd was stunned that I was in the same class, but since the drama ended so quickly, everyone immediately moved along. Elara, why are you so late? Her best friend Harper immediately waved her over, eagerly asking if she finished the homework assignment. Harper begged to copy it, but Elara just sank into her chair and coldly told her that she didn't bring it today. Since Elara had walked in, the entire room got incredibly quiet. Everyone stopped shouting because they knew how much she despised loud noises. I tapped my fingers loudly on Ara's desk, sounding completely and utterly annoyed. I told her to push her desk back because I barely had any room to sit in my own seat. The silent room made my words echo, instantly grabbing everyone's attention, as they wondered why on earth this transfer student was so incredibly bold. He actually dared to demand things from the queen bee and tap her desk. Meanwhile, I stood tall, staring right down at her with zero fear. Elara just propped her chin up, glaring right back with intense eyes. We held that fierce stare down for nearly half a minute while our classmates placed bets on exactly how painful my death would be. Since she absolutely hated guys, everyone figured I was completely done for after speaking to her so aggressively. But to everyone's absolute shock, Elara just muttered a quiet fine and dragged her desk way back, letting me sit down totally relaxed. Just like that, the drama ended. Everyone was left completely speechless. Can you even believe this? Had the Ice Queen lost her voice? No explosion, no fury. Why was she acting so surprisingly obedient toward a complete stranger? This wild gossip had to be shared with the whole school. Within minutes, a viral post blew up the school forum, claiming the new transfer guy in Class 3 openly challenged the Ice Queen on his very first day. It was considered legendary, and as I sat down, Rowan leaned over to apologize. He whispered that he didn't get to warn me, but the only free spot in class was this one right here. He explained that Elara claimed the back row was too tight for her long legs, so she pushed her desk all the way up, leaving the desk right behind her completely empty until now. I slowly pulled a thick exam prep workbook out of my bag and gave Rowan a faint smile. Don't worry, I said, she wouldn't dare touch me. What did you say? Rowan wondered if his ears were messing up. Why did it sound like we were so close? I just shook my head. Nothing, I lied. But deep down, I was already plotting my next move. I didn't know you ruled this school, but sorry to burst your bubble. The young master is here now, so your days as the big boss are officially over. You haven't won a single fight against me since childhood. Don't tell me you're actually planning a rebellion now. With that in mind, I spun around and glared. Elara definitely felt my intense stare from the front, but she didn't even bother looking up. Instead, she kept wiping her desk down with disinfectant. She was a massive germaphobe. Leaving her desk untouched during the 10-day holiday meant it had gathered dust, making it totally unusable until it was sanitized to perfection. Our homeroom teacher, Mr. Harrison, stepped up to the podium. Shh, old man Harrison is here. Zip it! Those who spotted him first immediately started frantically gesturing for their neighbors to quiet down. The classroom instantly fell dead silent. After a dramatic speech, Old man Harrison scanned the room and finally locked onto my unfamiliar, newly transferred face. He pointed a finger straight at me, asking the new male student over there to stand up and introduce himself. I had been in this classroom for barely an hour and was already the center of a massive circus. Every single classmate was brimming with curiosity. I stood up fast, but my legs couldn't quite straighten all the way. The space between the desk and chair was still way too cramped. Hello everyone, my name is Caspian. I just transferred from experimental high school, and I hope we can all work hard and make progress together here. The sharpest kids in the room would have noticed that while I was speaking, Ara sneakily pulled her desk back a tiny bit. By the time I finished, I could stand completely straight with plenty of room. Not bad, actually pretty good. Caspian's grades are absolutely excellent, so I expect you all to help each other out from now on. Old man Harrison smiled warmly and gestured for me to sit. Mr. Harrison, I muttered, looking a bit pained. What is it? Do you have something else to add? Clutching my stomach, I groaned. Sir, I really need to go to the bathroom. The classmates who laughed at literally anything were already losing it. Old man Harrison simply waved his hand at me. Go on, make it quick. By the time I dragged myself back to the classroom, he was already deep into his lecture. For the rest of the period, I clutched my stomach, slumped lifelessly over my desk. Caspian, are you okay? Do you want me to take you to the school clinic? Rowan asked with real concern. I'm fine. Just ate something bad last night. I managed to squeeze out a weak smile. Elara, sitting right behind me, quietly watched this whole pathetic display. She silently grabbed her personal water bottle and slipped out of the classroom, returning a short while later. In her hands was a box of medicine and a cup of warm water. Under the shocked stares of the entire class, she placed them right on my desk. No freaking way, Harper vigorously rubbed her eyes. Am I actually hallucinating? My little Ara? You're letting him use your cup and even bought him medicine? Saying that, she reached out to check Ara's forehead. Tilting her head in utter confusion, she muttered that there was no fever. Ara, you're acting incredibly sus, she whispered. Ara swatted Harper's hand away and told her to stop messing around, sending the classroom into absolute chaos. Didn't she have severe germophobia? Wasn't keeping her distance from guys her absolute daily rule? The legendary Ice Queen actually taking care of someone? Seriously, we are all wondering who this guy really is. He basically insulted the campus goddess to her face, yet she wasn't mad at all. Instead, she was actively nursing him. What's so weird about it? Ara is naturally beautiful and kind-hearted, so what's wrong with caring for a new classmate? Thaddeus said out loud, though his heart was basically marinating in a vat of pure, bitter jealousy. He had secretly crushed on Ara for years, trying so hard for so long, yet the iceberg he couldn't melt was suddenly defrosting for someone else. The flames of jealousy raged uncontrollably inside his chest. But the two of us couldn't have cared less about the absolute chaos surrounding us. Ara simply rested her head on her desk to sleep, while I unscrewed the cup, blew on the hot water to cool it, and chugged it down. Honestly, it wasn't weird to us at all. We had known each other since we wore diapers, our families being next-door neighbors. We were the ultimate childhood sweethearts. Except I didn't see her as a girl, and she definitely didn't see me as a guy. To everyone else, she was an untouchable ice princess. But to me, she was still just that goofy, runny-nosed kid who always trailed behind me, trying to steal my ice cream. For as long as I can remember, we used to sit under our backyard tree, sharing one spoon to eat watermelon. Neither of us cared that our drool was basically dripping all over our chins. But right now, I wasn't feeling grateful to Ara at all, because she was the mastermind behind my stomachache. She literally forced me to dump 6 packets of burning seasoning into my noodles, completely numbing my tongue. Even worse, we had 0 water left, so I had to chug ice-cold soda, just to survive the heat. Honestly, I still admire how she didn't get diarrhea after eating like that. But of course, a stomachache wasn't the actual reason we've been in a silent war since last night. The real issue started during dinner, when she casually grabbed my summer homework to use as a placemat, swearing she wouldn't spill a single drop of grease. The result: one dip of her chopsticks, and my homework became total collateral damage. Giant grease stains exploded all over the paper. I lost my mind, screaming at her for being a total menace. But Ara thought I was overreacting, claiming that transfer students didn't even have to hand in their assignments anyway. Well, you can probably guess that our bickering instantly exploded into a massive argument. The clash only ended when she handed over her own homework as payback, officially kickstarting our long, silent war. Which brings us to today. We didn't walk to school together, and we haven't spoken a single word all morning. But a silent treatment is still a silent treatment. Deep down, we still cared. Ever since we were little kids, no matter how bad our fights got, she was always the first to surrender. Caspian, do you and Ara actually know each other? What's your relationship? Rowan, whose jaw had nearly hit the floor during the medicine delivery, finally snapped out of it, desperate for gossip. But I just claimed I'd never met her. Just thinking about how Ara still hadn't apologized properly made me absolutely furious. It felt like all those years of sharing ice cream meant nothing. Admitting I knew her now? No way. Absolutely impossible. Trust me, Ara. If you two don't actually know each other, I will literally do a handstand and eat dirt. Harper aggressively chimed in. She'd been Ara's classmate for 3 years in middle school, and her deskmate for 2 years in high school. Never before had she seen Ara treat anyone with such crazy enthusiasm. Are you done talking yet? Ara, who wasn't actually asleep, sat up and kicked my chair, asking if admitting I knew her was really that humiliating, but I just told the bobblehead to stop kicking. I whipped my head around and roared at the top of my lungs, not holding back at all. The word bobblehead echoed off the classroom ceiling, ringing in the silence for what felt like forever. Great, are you happy now? Not only does everyone know we're connected, but they also know your embarrassing childhood nickname. I smirked, jutting my chin out to provoke her. See, when Era was a little kid, she was so skinny that her head looked comically huge. That's how she earned that ridiculous nickname. Even now, with her flawless supermodel proportions and tiny face, I still love calling her that just to see her reaction. Believe it or not, our untouchable ice queen has a nickname, making this transfer student a total legend. Breaking news! The school beauty has a nickname minted by the new guy. This is absolutely epic. Suddenly, a student from another class knocked on our door, yelling that Mr. Harrison wanted our academic rep to collect the summer homework. Delivering messages to Class 3 was a job every single guy fought tooth and nail for, just to get a quick glimpse of Ara. Got it, thanks man. Thaddeus stood up immediately, waving him off. Just being in the same class as Ara was already a massive ego boost for him. But being the rep cranked his superiority complex to the max as he grumbled about old man Harrison actually remembering the homework. Groans of pure agony erupted across the classroom as Thaddeus started collecting workbooks from the very next row. By the time he reached Ara, his arms were loaded. He dumped the massive stack onto her desk, grabbed Harper's homework, and flashed his most practiced winning smile. He smoothly asked Ara where her summer homework was. Didn't bring it. Ara snapped back with sheer irritation without even looking up, leaving Thaddeus completely speechless. Determined to keep up his perfect gentleman act, he just told her to bring it tomorrow instead. But after getting completely shut down by Ara, Thaddeus naturally had to dump all his frustration onto me. He aggressively slammed into my desk on purpose. My pen slipped, leaving a giant ink streak right across the page. I glared up, absolutely livid, while he just smirked and said the books were too heavy. I did not mean to bump into you, Thaddeus said with a fake innocent face. I shrugged. No worries. I waved my hand with fake generosity. Who did he think he was dealing with? I was the ultimate anti-hypocrite crusader in a 10-mile radius. I whipped out my summer homework, or to be totally precise, Ara's summer homework, and deliberately flipped through the pages right in front of him. Here is mine. Go ahead and take it. The handwriting was identical to Ara's, and Thaddeus recognized it immediately. He had secretly abused his academic rep status to copy her writing before. What is wrong, Mr. Academic Rep? Is there a problem? I looked at Thaddeus with a smug grin, playing the innocent victim perfectly. Two could play this petty game. It is just that the handwriting looks a bit familiar. Thaddeus forced his facial muscles to squeeze out a stiff smile. Could this workbook actually belong to Era? Did she do his homework? Thaddeus's brain was short-circuiting, but he did not dare ask. First, he was absolutely terrified of hearing a truth he could not handle. Second, he was even more terrified of others finding out. After all, everyone believed he was the only guy worthy of standing next to Ara. Karma hits hard. Thaddeus slunk away totally deflated, leaving Rowan absolutely delighted. He threw an arm over my shoulder, asking how I did that. He had been sick of Thaddeus's smug face for ages. And get this, he always brags about being close to Ara just because they went to the same middle school for 3 years. Honestly, Ara does not even want to breathe the same air as him. I turned my head and gave Rowan a knowing grin. When you cannot stand it anymore, you stop holding back. A tiny, stealthy smile crept onto Ara's face, but she quickly hid it. Instead, she delivered a few swift kicks to my chair. Can you two shut up for a minute? She snapped. All day long, students from other classes kept popping up at our door, craning their necks to peek inside Class 3. Besides the usual crowd coming to ogle Era, a massive chunk of them was there entirely to gawk at me, the new transfer. Hitting the #1 trending spot on the school forum on day 1, and staying there for hours, was an absolute historic first. I had officially cemented my legend status. Standing at someone else's classroom door and blocking traffic is incredibly rude, do you not think? Ara suddenly shot a look of pure ice at a random girl. The entire class gasped. The campus belle was actually starting a confrontation. Why on earth was she doing that? Well, the only thing that annoyed her more than being treated like a zoo exhibit was seeing me get treated like a zoo exhibit. The last period was a self-study session. Since it was day 1, the homework load was pretty light. Ara breezed through it 10 minutes before the final bell. She packed her bag, checked the clock on the wall, and aggressively started kicking my chair again. Caspian, pack your things already. School is almost over. I suppressed my raging urge to fight back and ignored her. Ara kept kicking, asking if I was deaf. Do you not want to walk home with me? Caspian, are you seriously still mad? Why are you holding such a massive grudge? Fine, I apologize. Everything is my fault? Happy now? The entire school thought she was this cold girl whose words were worth gold. But I was the only soul alive who knew just how much of an unstoppable, nagging chatterbox she truly was. We all know that type, right? Staying silent was her absolute limit. I got it. I spun around and hit her with my ultimate death glare. Caspian, are you stuck on a problem? If you do not know how to do it, just ask. I do not mind tutoring you. Ara, is there something wrong with your brain? Can you stop buzzing in my ear like a mosquito? Shut up, I finally snapped, yelling at her in pure frustration. Maybe those meds she gave me earlier had fully restored my energy because my voice was absolutely booming. That single shout practically gave heart attacks to the kids studying, and the ones secretly reading comic books, and even the ones secretly napping. Dozens of curious heads snapped in our direction all at once. Only then did I realize the massive scene I had just caused, awkwardly bowing my head to apologize. But after enduring a full day of crazy school drama, our classmates seemed totally immune to our chaos. After watching the free show, they just went back to their own business. If you ask me, Ara definitely has a massive crush on Caspian. Obviously, anyone with functioning eyes can see that. Shh, keep it down. Thaddeus is sitting right over there. Who cares if he hears? He is always acting so high and mighty anyway. He got absolutely wrecked today, someone whispered, but their voices were perfectly pitched, so he could hear every single word of their gossip. Thaddeus secretly clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Under Harper's countdown, the bell finally rang. The students practically stampeded out of the classroom the second the bell rang. Hey, Elara, what are you doing later? Want to play some badminton? Harper asked, tossing her bag over her shoulder. Ara just pointed right at me. Ask him. No way, Harper shrieked, her voice cracking in total shock. School is literally over and you still want to follow him around? And seriously, can you stop giving me two-word answers? Ara smirked. Nope, if you want to play, go ahead, I am going home. I looked over and patted Rowan on the shoulder. Hey, Rowan, let us walk out of here together. Sure thing, Rowan said, throwing an arm over my shoulder. Guess I am skipping out too. Let us play some other day. Elara immediately jogged to catch up, sticking right behind me. What kind of spell did this Caspian guy cast on her? The sky is literally falling, Harper grumbled, following behind us. Elara, can you please find even a tiny shred of the self-respect a campus goddess is supposed to have? Rowan and I made our way toward the school gates, while Elara and Harper followed closely behind us. Grouping good-looking guys and gorgeous girls together like this always creates a scene, and this scene quickly stirred up trouble. Hey, Caspian, I am Roxy from Class 9. I really like you. Can we get to know each other? I froze for a second. Even though I was pretty used to girls hitting on me, I had just transferred here yesterday. Not really convenient, I began. But before I can finish, watch this, a freezing voice cuts in. Elara marches up, her face looking like an absolute thundercloud. You say you admire him? You have not even met him yet, and you say you admire him? Is your admiration really that cheap? Elara, butt out. Seriously, what does me talking to Caspian have to do with you? Roxy was legendary around school. She was one of those tough, rebel girls with absolutely rock-bottom grades. Elara marched over and locked her arm through mine. None of my business? His business is my business. Roxy laughed. Do you really think being the campus goddess means you run the whole universe? Roxy scoffed, turning back to me. Caspian, can we be friends or not? Are you deaf, or just stupid? Elara snapped, physically blocking me from Roxy's view. It was so rare to hear her sound this angry. All right, let it go. Elara, let us just leave. I grabbed Era's hand and pulled her away. Look, Roxy, I will remember you, but I seriously need to head home. By the time we reached the gates, Rowan's family had already picked him up, and Harper had gone off to play ball. Elara, Caspian, a van honked twice from across the street as a window rolled down. It was my dad, Arthur. Hi. Uncle Arthur, Elara said, obediently following me into the car while everyone stared. Elara, how was Caspian? He didn't cause any huge disasters today, did he? Nope, Caspian is pretty popular. Just a second ago, some girl was begging to be his friend. You know? Elara spoke with pure, passive-aggressive sarcasm. Well, as long as he is not causing trouble, I am happy. This kid has been a troublemaker since he was a toddler. Your Uncle Arthur is counting on you to watch him closely. Don't worry, I will, Elara said with terrifying focus. Good. My mind is at ease. My dad nodded happily. Truth is, our families were incredibly close. And get this, they actually joked about us getting married when we were kids. But as we grew up acting more like rival siblings than soulmates, our parents quietly dropped that idea. My dad kept nagging as he drove. You are both seniors now, so look out for each other and study hard at school. You seriously need to study hard. Understood? Don't worry, Uncle, we know, Ara said. Era knew exactly what supervise meant, because just like her, I had been the absolute golden boy at my old school. Getting tons of love letters and daily confessions was honestly just another typical Tuesday for me. Part of why I transferred was because my dad's job suddenly got extremely busy. Being at the same school just made it way easier for our parents to carpool. But their real secret plan was having Era act as my warden to stop me from dating and ruining my grades. Honestly, they were worrying for nothing since I didn't care about those girls. Soon, we pulled into our neighborhood. Ara and I spent the entire ride bickering and playfighting, but the heavenly smell of food welcomed us the moment we walked in. My mom is an amazing cook. When we were little, Era always complained her family's food tasted like cardboard, practically living at our house as a freeloader. Ara, eat up. Look how skinny you are. Auntie's heart is breaking. The food in Ara's bowl was already piled up like Mount Everest, but my mom was still aggressively scooping more on top. I swear, sometimes I seriously wondered who the real biological kid was here. Thanks, Auntie. My metabolism is just super fast. Yeah, right, she was already eating her second full bowl. Pigs don't even eat this much. I chimed in with absolute zero tact. You are literally eating all our food. Why are you so stingy? She kicked my leg. Hard. Her eyes flared with pure, murderous rage. Once dinner wrapped up, we moved to my bedroom to handle some homework. Well, to be totally fair, I was suffering through homework while Era was busy sabotaging me since she already finished everything at school and didn't even bring her backpack home. I had a pen wedged between my teeth, staring blankly at a brutal math problem that had me completely stuck. After racking my brain forever, I scribbled down an answer, only to violently scratch it out and restart as my frustration hit the limit. You idiot, you wrote the formula completely wrong. Ara leaned over, instantly spotting my fatal mistake with just one quick glance. Oh, that actually made perfect sense. I wanted to crawl into a hole and disappear. I had filled the page with complex calculations only to fail at step 1. How can you be so careless? At this rate, you are never going to beat me. She gloated. Of course. Ara had basically glued herself to the top 3 spots in our entire grade for 3 straight years. My grades were stellar, but the kid next door was always somehow fundamentally superior. My parents constantly told me to be more like her. So, with this school transfer, both of us were secretly ready to battle for the top spot. Now get this, we made a bet that whoever scores higher on the upcoming monthly exam makes the loser their slave for a whole month. Ara, just you wait, I am going to absolutely crush you under my boot on this exam, I muttered through grit teeth. Right on cue, my mom popped her head in holding 2 glasses of milk. Son, are you picking on Ara again? Don't you know anything about treating girls with a little respect? Mom, seriously, am I your real son or is she? Blah blah blah. Era stuck her tongue out at me from across the desk the exact millisecond my mom set the milk down and walked out. My slipper immediately executed a flawless, heat-seeking trajectory straight into Ara's face. First thing, the next morning, the moment I opened my bedroom door, I saw Ara casually leaning against the frame. Her apartment was literally right across the hall from mine. Morning, Caspian, let's bike to school today. Yeah, I nodded. Time to roll. She loved riding her bike in the early morning air, passing right through the market packed with fresh breakfast smells. Hearing the local vendors shouting was the pure, beautiful essence of life, and even our bike bells sounded incredibly cheerful. Naturally, with my glorious presence right next to her, the whole ride was way more fun. We ran into Harper just as we neared the school entrance. She waved at us energetically from down the street, crying out in mock sadness. Caspian, how could you just steal my Era away like this? Seeing her glued to my side made Harper genuinely dramatic. 17 long years. This goofy girl has basically been haunting my life like a ghost for 17 straight years. I am literally begging you to take her. Alright, I was totally just showing off and being a massive hypocrite. If anyone actually tried to take her from me, I would literally hunt them down. Wait, Caspian, the world's most incredibly handsome Caspian. I remember now, it was actually you. Harper suddenly had this massive eureka moment. Back in 7th grade, Ara's school lunch card had a really cute cartoon sticker on it. But one afternoon, it was suddenly replaced by this super crude self-portrait of a guy. Harper had mocked her relentlessly for it. Now the puzzle pieces finally clicked, so you are the legendary childhood sweetheart. I've heard so much about you, Caspian. We definitely need a proper reintroduction. And trust me, things were about to get wild. I've heard some amazing things about the gorgeous Harper, too. For some wild reason, she and I instantly clicked. We were acting exactly like long-lost siblings. Suddenly, Ara locked up her bike and forcefully wedged herself right between us. Move, move, we're going to be late. And so, our morning study session began. I was fighting for my absolute life, trying to memorize some English vocabulary when our teacher, Old Man Harrison, walked in and tapped the blackboard. Heads up, everyone, I have a major announcement. Next week, we are having a massive, comprehensive mock exam, covering absolutely everything you've ever learned. The format is an exact replica of the college entrance exams, making this your first massive battle of senior year. I expect every single one of you to take this seriously. Great, why are we getting hit with exams the moment school starts? Testing us on literally everything basically means there's no set study guide. Instantly, the entire classroom erupted into a chorus of dramatic crying. All right, settle down and get back to work, Old Man Harrison commanded before finally heading out of the room. The ultimate showdown was arriving early, and I swore to myself I would win. Ara, I am absolutely scoring higher than you today. I will beat you. I was so incredibly hyped that I spent every single second of recess intensely studying. She poked my back with her pen. Caspian, cramming at the last second is cute, she teased, and losing to her is not a crime. Stop poking me, I am concentrating. I aggressively scribbled some words on a piece of paper, balled it up, and tossed it backward in a flawless arc. It landed squarely on Ara's desk. She opened it up to find two massive, beautifully written words: "Get lost. Do not annoy me." Then she pointed a finger right at me. Caspian, you are cursing at me again. I spun around to face her. We had a deal. Whoever gets the lower score becomes the servant for a month, carrying out orders without a single complaint. Better keep your word and do not cry when you lose. Total mic drop. I turned right back around and plugged my ears, refusing to give her any chance to clap back. Look at that smirk, a pretty wicked idea was forming in her head. Giggling behind her hand, she grabbed her pen and drew a massive, ugly pig's head on that paper. Then, she stealthily stuck it right onto my back. Ara, I never knew you were such a toddler. Harper, having witnessed this whole criminal enterprise, shook her head in sheer disbelief. Spinning around, she instantly slipped back into her default Ice Queen expression, acting as if she had not just committed absolute vandalism. No, you are not my Ara, Harper teased, lunging right into a playful chokehold. Who are you? She gasped. What have you done with my Harper? Are you trying to stage a coup? Do you need a reminder that I am a black belt in Taekwondo? Ara warned. Ouch, my queen, I repent. Mercy, Harper begged, instantly letting go. Their playful bickering was cut short by the class bell. A gorgeous young female teacher walked in carrying a massive stack of tests. Is she the new teacher? She is gorgeous, they whispered. Hearing the chatter, she smiled. Hello students, I am your English teacher for senior year, she announced. You can call me Tracy or Miss Sterling. To get a clear grasp of your English proficiency, we are going to do a quick pop quiz before starting our official lessons. Miss Sterling smoothly split the test papers into 4 stacks and handed them down to the front row. Pass these back, she said. Exams on day 1? Harper muttered, totally ruthless. I should not need to remind you of the exam rules. Turn them in the second you are done, Miss Sterling said, pacing the aisles and glancing at papers. Here she would frown and shake her head. There she would nod with satisfaction. Finally, she stopped right next to Ara and lingered. Looking up, she noticed that goofy paper pig slapped onto my back. She gently tapped Ara's desk twice, gesturing for her to peel the paper off, then returned to the podium. The very first person to hand it in was Thaddeus. When it came to showing off, that guy would practically sell his soul to be first. The second was Rowan. I quickly called out to him to hand mine in too. Just as Rowan stood up, Harper also nudged his chair. Could you be an absolute lifesaver and hand mine in too? Harper whispered. Rowan was slightly taken aback, since this was her first time actively starting a conversation with him. Oh, sure, Rowan replied, gathering all 4 papers to hand them in. Since the test was entirely multiple choice, grading was lightning fast. Miss Sterling flew through the papers with a red pen, finishing before the period even officially ended. Wait for it, whoever gets the highest score becomes my official class representative. Today, exactly 1 student scored a perfect 100. Caspian, from now on, you are the English rep. Any objections? She asked. I nodded. No problem, miss. And another student only missed a single question. Whenever Caspian is too busy, I want you to step in and assist him. Ara nodded in agreement, saying yes, miss. The final class of the morning was biology. Our teacher was an older gentleman who seemed fundamentally incapable of understanding the primal, starving instincts of high school students. Because of that, he had a notorious habit of dragging his lectures out long after the bell rang. Desperate to signal their urgency, several students already clutched their meal cards like weapons, sticking both legs into the aisles, fully primed to sprint at a millisecond's notice. The biology teacher finally pushed his glasses up. All right, you are dismissed, go eat. Thank you, sir. Goodbye, sir, we cheered. Before our voices even faded, those wild beasts had already stampeded toward the cafeteria. If you are not sprinting for food, you have got serious screws loose. By the time Rowan and I made it to the cafeteria, the line was already terrifyingly long. I rubbed my violently growling stomach and peered ahead, wondering what the good stuff on the menu was today. Do you think there will be any meat left by the time we get up there? I had only eaten here once, but it absolutely slapped. Rowan, having eaten here for 2 years, had long achieved culinary nirvana and cared about nothing. Suddenly, someone yelled, "Hey, Caspian, over here." Someone near the front of the line was aggressively waving at me. Who is that? She is not from our class, is she? My memory was absolute garbage back then. A whole day of school had passed, and I still could not match the names to the faces in my class. Rowan whispered that Roxy was calling me. I tried to pretend I was deaf and blind, but she just started waving at me even harder. She yelled for me to cut the line with her because all the best food was about to run out. I frantically waved my hands to reject her, saying cutting in line is bad karma and we barely even know each other anyway. I told her I did not want to bother her, then quickly spun around to fake argue a math problem with Rowan to ignore her. Cutting in line is already annoying enough, but getting mixed up with someone like her was a massive pass for me. By the time Rowan and I actually made it to the food window, we only had a few sad options left. Just some lonely vegetable dishes because my absolute favorites were completely gone. I sighed, knowing eating anything was better than starving. Trays in hand, Rowan and I awkwardly walked around the cafeteria searching for an open table. With only seniors back, half the cafeteria was blocked off, and trust me, finding a table was a total war zone. Suddenly, Harper started waving at us frantically from a long table nearby, where it was just her and Elara holding down the fort. I told Rowan to head over to that table, and walked straight there, leaving him with no choice but to follow. The second I sat down, I asked them why everyone else was cramming together while leaving their table completely empty. Harper roasted her, saying people probably do not want frostbite while eating next to an absolute ice queen. She asked who would even have an appetite sitting next to that face. Honestly, she had a fair point. After coming here, I realized the school version of Elara was like a totally different species compared to the childhood friend I knew. I looked at her tray and asked why she got sweet and sour fish when she hates seafood. My eyes basically turned into lasers staring at her plate. Elara coolly replied that her mom told her fish is good for her eyes, but one bite made her gag. She told me to just eat it if I wanted it so badly, and I gladly accepted. In a flash, I deployed my chopsticks and snatched every single piece of sweet and sour fish onto my tray. I shoved a massive piece in my mouth, wondering how anyone could hate something this delicious. It is basically culinary treason. The truth was Elara had hated fish since we were toddlers, but she always teased me for eating my own kind because I loved it. So when she was standing in line earlier and saw the fish was almost completely gone, she purposefully bought a portion just so I would not miss out. But the proud ice queen would rather die than admit that, and my dense brain would never realize it. Harper put down her drink, turned to Rowan, and asked why he was sitting there being so quiet. Rowan had transferred in during our junior year, but because he was so naturally introverted, he did not have a desk mate. He was a total lone wolf, and even though he sat behind Elara and Harper, Harper always had to start the conversation. If she did not speak, he would not say a word, and he was even more distant with Elara. Rowan just scratched his head and smiled shyly, admitting he did not know what to say. On my very first day, he had to summon the courage of 1,000 lions just to say hello. Luckily, my high energy broke the ice quickly and made us instant bros. I told him that meeting a guy like him made transferring totally worth it. I truly enjoyed hanging out with him because he was chill, loyal, and real. Rowan just smiled. Rowan said he was the lucky one. Suddenly, Elara set down her chopsticks and looked at him with terrifying seriousness. You have to hear this warning. She told him that being friends with me was basically a high-risk extreme sport. Pointing out a faint mark on her arm, Elara showed him a scar and blamed me for scratching her. She then asked if he wanted to know why her foot swelled up like a balloon back in middle school. She explained how she had to hop around in a sandal for weeks, then slowly turned her eyes toward Harper. It was because I ran her over while she was teaching me how to ride a bike, and those were just the appetizers. She warned Rowan to sleep with one eye open, leaving me laughing nervously at her brutal call-out. I told her it was an accident, but then Rowan chimed in, asking if Elara and I had really known each other since childhood. Rowan was completely mind-blown as he finally connected the dots. I just nodded. I bragged that I had known her since day one, and that she used to follow me around like a little shadow. Seeing Ara's face turn completely dark with anger, I immediately course-corrected and said we were just childhood bros. Elara rolled her eyes so hard I thought they would get stuck, while Harper started trying to map it all out. Harper counted on her fingers, saying if I am Rowan's bro and Elara is her bestie, she is also my bro. So, since Rowan and Caspian are bros, that means Rowan and I are, yes, exactly, You are an absolute genius. I ended up interrupting Harper's math proofs, but now the four of us are officially a ride or die squad through thick and thin. Cheers to that, drink up, Rowan laughed, happily joining in. Just like that, our legendary four-brainiac squad of senior class 3 was born. Blink and it was Friday. I had completely adapted to the whole high school scene. During afternoon self-study, everyone's souls had already completely checked out, drifting off toward whatever weekend plans they had. Then at recess, our class clown and chief troublemaker Dexter started writing furiously on the blackboard. I read the massive headline Senior Class 3 Annual Awards. The categories were totally stacked. Most handsome class grass, most beautiful class flower, best temper, and cutest personality. I laughed to myself. It seems like every class really loves these super cheesy but kind of wholesome voting games. Once he finished writing, Dexter dropped the chalk like a boss and faced the classroom, calling out to everyone, "Get your votes in, guys. Write down your picks and drop them right here on the podium. We will tally them up next recess." Didn't we already do this though? Why are we doing it again? Who knows? Maybe because Caspian transferred in, so the most handsome title is actually up for grabs now. Whatever, it is just for fun, let's do it. Harper leaned over to ask, but Elara replied without looking up, "I don't know and I don't care. If Caspian wins most handsome and you win most beautiful, you two would be the ultimate power couple." Elara just called it boring. Saying she was out, Elara stood up and walked out. Rowan then turned and asked who I was voting for. Rowan tore a scrap piece of paper in half to share. "Honestly, I have no clue. I barely know anyone here," I said, shaking my head in distress. "No big deal, just write whatever or copy me. Class beautiful is obviously Elara, but class handsome? That has to be you, bro." Without a second thought, Rowan wrote down Caspian next to the most handsome category. "I can't write my own name, so I'll just vote for you instead," I laughed, quickly scribbling Rowan's name down. I folded the paper 4 times and tossed it onto the podium right along with Rowan's vote. The little buzz from the voting went on for a bit, but things finally quieted down when the class bell rang. 45 minutes was the exact time I needed to absolutely demolish that math test, capping my pen just as the final bell rang. Boom! Listen up, the big moment is here. I am officially counting the votes. Dexter jumped onto the podium, opening the papers one by one to announce the names while drawing tally marks on the board for beautiful, handsome, and cutest. Dexter shook the very last slip of paper, announcing they were all out. Unsurprisingly, Elara easily defended her class beautiful title in a massive landslide. The other categories had super clear winners, but the race for most handsome was a total, brutal bloodbath. But look at this, Thaddeus has 20 votes and Caspian has 20. It's a perfect tie, and one person hasn't voted yet. Who was it? Everyone started looking around frantically. Rowan leaned over, whispering that I basically won anyway. He said Thaddeus 100% voted for himself. I just shrugged. It is not like I actually care about winning. I really didn't care about this dumb vote, but Thaddeus cared a lot. He was the undisputed king, and now he had just lost half his loyal subjects. His face was a total mask, but inside, he was cursing those 20 people who voted for me, thinking they were legally blind. "Wake up!" Harper violently shook Elara, who was currently fast asleep on her desk. "Did you seriously not vote?" Elara had zero interest in this stuff, and getting dragged out of a premium nap made her look completely unamused. "What? I already told you I do not care, but everything else is decided except for the most handsome title. Thaddeus and Caspian are tied. You are the tiebreaker. Elara, please just vote. Otherwise, all this dramatic tension is for absolutely nothing." The whole class started chanting, and still half asleep, Elara squinted at the board. "Is everything else decided?" "Yep, only most handsome is left," Harper answered with a massive, eager grin. "So annoying," Elara muttered as she stood up. Under the unblinking gaze of the entire class, she walked slowly to the podium. "Oh, you are going to love this next part." She snatched the chalk and drew an aggressive, decisive tally mark right under my name. "Happy now," she muttered, dropping the chalk and walking straight out of the classroom. Wow, our Ice Queen is incredibly loyal to the end. She never picks Thaddeus. Epic, we have a brand new class, handsome. And just like that, with Elara's absolute god-tier tiebreaker vote, I was officially crowned the new most handsome guy in Senior Class 3. Thaddeus shot out of his chair like a rocket and stormed out, intercepting Elara in the hallway with his voice literally trembling from pure anger. "Why do you always side with him, Elara? In what universe am I worse than Caspian? You and him?" The others just stare back with cold, brutal indifference, leaving Thaddeus completely stranded in his own crushing embarrassment. Once that hilarious recess drama wrapped up, everyone gets a tiny motivation boost to survive the day. On our way out, Harper corners Rowan, Elara, and me. She wants to set up a study group. I immediately speak up and say I am completely free this weekend. I volunteer Elara too, and Rowan agrees to check with his parents and text us later. Harper cheers that it is a date and invites us over since her place is empty. But Ara is not having it. Ara backs away fast, trying to draw a line between herself and us, mere mortals. Harper immediately goes into panic mode. She grabs Ara by the arm and unleashes a desperate puppy dog stare, begging her precious friend to join us. Harper whines that she will be the only girl there, using a baby voice so cringy it gives us goosebumps. Rowan and I jump back. Ara coldly flat out refuses, stating she does not need to study. I just shake my head. Honestly, neither of these two girls are anywhere near normal. Time for me to handle this. I announce that since the campus queen refuses to hang with us peasants, our group is officially dead. We will just recruit a new top-tier goddess to replace her and build a better squad. Problem solved. I nudge Rowan with my elbow, wearing the most ridiculously fake grin I can muster. I mean, it is not like our school is short on beautiful, smart girls, right? But as Ara's expression turns completely murderous behind me, Rowan gulps down his agreement and stays dead silent. Suddenly, Ara stomps hard on my foot, threatening to tell Uncle Arthur that I am harassing female students if I try it. I howl in pain, asking if she is threatening me and demanding she remove her heavy foot. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Show up, or you will regret it. She drops the warning, grabs my strap, and violently drags me away. Honestly, we all know something is going on between them. Rowan chuckles as he watches us disappear. Suddenly, Harper gets way too close to him, dropping her voice to a creepy whisper. She tells him to be there tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. sharp. Rowan slowly turns, giving her a look that asks if she needs mental help, before squeezing out a very awkward smile. He murmurs okay and immediately runs for his life. Harper stands there totally confused. Nearby, kids start whispering when they see Ara dragging me, but one death glare silences them. The crowd instantly shuts up, though their eyes stay absolutely glued to us the entire time. With everyone watching, Ara hauls me by my backpack all the way to the bus stop before finally letting go. We have to ride the bus today because my dad only drove us on day one for show. He practically lives at the office now, and I am lucky if I even catch his shadow at home. This entire school transfer was definitely a grand conspiracy to lock Ara and me into the exact same daily commute. The guard waves and buzzes us in. As we walk, Ara asks why I keep staring at her. She caught me glancing over every 3 seconds. I tell her it is nothing, I am just amazed by her popularity. How did I never notice before that you are actually pretty? She pokes my forehead ruthlessly, calling me a total idiot for constantly complaining about a top-tier goddess like her. She asks if my eyes are just decorations. I tell to stop poking me, but admit she has great taste in guys. I agree that I am incredibly handsome, but she should really be a bit more subtle about it next time. He thinks her class vote was a total confession, but she just leaves him in the dust. Talk about a reality check. She yells back that I am completely delusional. She says she only voted out of pity, then suddenly offers to get ice cream. My chaotic brain completely derails her, and I offer to treat her like a good big brother. Before she can process, I pull her into a store and grab my favorite vanilla and her strawberry. I remind her of the time we were kids and she finished her treat, then literally stole mine, and made me cry, bribing me on the swing so her parents wouldn't find out. She laughs, remembering how she pushed me forever and I still was not satisfied. Her arms were completely dead the next day. We both end up laughing out loud right in the street. Back then life was pretty simple. Every single day was totally carefree without a worry. Suddenly, this weird wave of sadness hit me out of nowhere. I could not explain it. Maybe it was just the harsh reality of growing up. College entrance exams were only a year out. The pressure made me feel pretty lost about the future. If it was up to me, I would never want you to grow up. I would stay by your side forever, as long as you were happy. Her voice was incredibly soft. It was so quiet that the noise of some kids running past almost completely drowned her out. I asked her what she just said because I did not hear. She laughed, telling me I was way too dramatic and the ice cream froze my brain. Elara strutted ahead on her long legs, saying, "Let us get home and eat." Next morning, my mom burst into my room and violently ripped the curtains open, yelling at me, "Caspian, look at the time." She asked why I was not up yet and if I was supposed to study at a friend's place. I groaned, asking what time it even was. I tried burying my head under the covers to go back to sleep, but my mom literally dragged me right out of bed. "It is 8:30. Get up and get ready right now." Looking like a total mess with crazy bird nest hair, I stumbled toward the living room. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted someone sitting on the couch and squinted. Elara greeted me with a sleepy head morning while chewing her sandwich and tilting her head to the side. She announced she had been waiting for exactly 13 minutes and 14 seconds. I muttered that not even breakfast could shut her up. My mom told us to shut it, handing me 2 huge containers of fresh fruit from the kitchen to share with friends, shoving them right into my bag. She glared at me with total disappointment, calling me a little punk. Ordering me to wash my face, she said I looked like a bridge troll, and my future wife would have terrible luck. Elara started coughing, choking on her milk. Hearing that, I quickly ran into the bathroom. You know that feeling of looking in the mirror after a rough sleep? Well, my reflection completely jump-scared me with lightning-struck hair and dried drool. After 10 crazy minutes of washing and splashing noises, a much more decent-looking version of me finally emerged. I yelled that we were off, and she warned us to be safe. Her endless nagging was cut short as the front door slammed shut. Harper's house was about a 20-minute bus ride from here. Rowan was already waiting for us at the bus stop, greeting us and telling us to head inside. And wait until you see this place. The rumors about Harper being a wealthy heir were spot on, because she lived in a giant 3-story villa. She was standing at the corner holding her huge fluffy sheepdog on a leash, waiting for us while it barked happily. The dog seemed to know exactly who we were, letting out loud, excited barks from down the street. I waved wildly at Harper and started sprinting her way, leaving her looking pretty confused. She wondered why I was so hyped but waved back anyway, as I asked if the dog was hers and what his name was. The first thing I did when I reached her was aggressively pet the dog, making Harper feel kind of silly. She realized I was running for the dog, explaining his name was Dumpling and he was 3.5. Her pet was a total superstar. He was a giant, fluffy, goofy ball of energy, with perfectly clean and incredibly silky fur. Whenever she walked him, he stole everyone's heart in a 10-mile radius, and he even starred in a dog food commercial once. He was the undisputed star of the neighborhood. Dumpling absolutely loved Rowan and me, sniffing us all over and wagging his tail like a helicopter rotor. But his actual soulmate was clearly Elara. The second Elara walked up, Dumpling ditched us immediately, spinning in crazy circles and almost dragging Harper face first onto the ground as she yelled that this was totally illegal. Harper joked that he was a traitor for simping for Elara like that. Feeling deeply offended, she tried pulling her dog back, unable to believe her own pet was betraying her for Elara after all the humans already did. Elara crouched down to scratch his head, telling Dumpling he was way cuter than his owner. The four of us laughed and chatted as we walked into the yard, which looked like a beautiful garden full of exotic flowers. Dumpling's little doghouse sat right in the middle, and I mumbled in awe that his setup was better than my bedroom. Elara teased me, asking if I could stop acting like a peasant visiting the city for the first time. She said, if I loved it, we could buy a place like this one day. However, the second part of that thought stayed safely locked away inside her head. Once inside, Dumpling immediately flopped onto his favorite rug while Harper showed us around. The entire place was incredibly bright, clean, and surprisingly minimalist. The place wasn't dripping with tacky gold at all, it was actually quite tasteful and grounded. Rowan, Harper, and I were loudly chatting and marveling at everything when Elara suddenly unleashed a terrifying roar. Are we here to study or not? Hearing that, the three of us practically teleported to the table in military posture. Rowan timidly raised his hand, suggesting we each take charge of our absolute best subject. Honestly, it was an amazing idea. We enthusiastically started calling out our strong suits, but Elara just sat there, completely ignoring the conversation. The three of us turned around to stare. Elara simply rested her chin on her hand and delivered the most arrogant line in human history. I can't answer that, because I am completely flawless at every single subject. The absolute nerve of her. We rolled our eyes so hard we almost saw our own brains, but we couldn't even argue back. Elara was a literal god-tier academic juggernaut. Ever since we entered this class, she held rank 1, absolutely refusing to leave her throne. I tentatively slid our math textbook toward her. Elara snatched it up, flipping the pages with terrifying speed while aggressively circling key concepts with her pen. Just 1 minute later, she slammed the textbook shut and tossed it back with a sickeningly smug grin. If you three peasants can actually understand my notes, scoring over 140 is easy, I sneered, questioning my direct competitor. Wait, seriously? You're trying to challenge Elara academically? Harper stared at me like I had completely lost my mind. Yeah, is that a crime? Stop looking down on me. Elara shot me a death glare, aggressively reaching to grab the book back. Caspian, you are actively insulting my integrity. But while Caspian didn't appreciate the gesture, Harper definitely did. This god-tier scholar's blessings are flawless. Harper desperately hugged the math textbook to her chest like a newborn baby. The three of us frantically scrambled to copy down those circled points, cross-referencing everything we still didn't know. Meanwhile, Elara was sitting there violently scribbling some formulas on a blank piece of paper. Here, she slapped the paper onto the table. I crafted 5 custom problems covering the absolute hardest concepts and the most frequent trap questions. Do them. I stared at those demonic equations, instantly suspecting Elara of actual attempted murder. Why are these questions so diabolically twisted? Harper stared at the sheet and gasped in awe, calling Elara absolutely lethal. How many different concepts did you even fuse into one single problem? Elara aggressively gave us 2 thumbs up. The three of us bowed our heads and entered the trenches. 20 minutes later, it was complete annihilation. Not a single one of us fully solved them. Elara reviewed our absolute bloodbath of scratch papers, nodding slightly while admitting it wasn't completely terrible. Even if you couldn't fully solve them, just writing down these base formulas would salvage some decent pity points. She pulled out a fresh sheet, methodically breaking down every single step of the solutions right before our eyes. Oh, that actually makes so much sense. The three of us sat there with mouths hanging open, nodding like total bobbleheads. After hearing Ara's step-by-step breakdown, it felt like my brain had been taken out, washed, and completely upgraded. Total enlightenment. Ara, what kind of quantum supercomputer is actively operating inside that genius head of yours? Harper tried to reach out and aggressively ruffle Ara's hair, but Ara pulled off a Matrix-level dodge, instantly retaliating with a lethal glare. Suddenly, remembering the fruit packed in my bag, I pulled out the massive plastic containers and slammed them on the table. Recess time. Let's eat some fruit and reboot our exhausted brains. Harper checked the time, asking what we wanted for lunch. I will cook. The entire table blue-screened at once. You actually know how to cook? My eyes practically popped out of my skull. Obviously. Harper rolled up her sleeves with immense pride, telling us to prepare for culinary greatness. To maximize our study time, Harper opted to whip up some beef curry rice. Watching her slice vegetables and maneuver around the kitchen with the smooth, easy confidence of a seasoned chef, I couldn't help but marvel. Wow, I never knew Harper had this side to her absolute wifey material, right? But suddenly, a bone-chilling draft ran down my spine. It was the ghostly, resentful glare of Ara boring directly into the back of my head. Thankfully, the food was ready in a flash. Harper plated 4 portions of rice, smothering them in glorious, rich beef curry. Tons of protein, fresh veggies, perfect color, and an insane aroma. All right, dig in, peasants. The smell was honestly a physical hook, dragging the starving demons in my stomach straight to the surface. Rowan took one single bite and gasped. Oh my god, this is incredible. He rarely showed such raw emotion, but turns out he is a massive foodie. Seriously, Harper, who knew you were secretly a master chef? I inhaled the food like a vacuum cleaner, aggressively showering her with praise. Harper finally achieved the absolute validation she deeply craved from us. She wiggled her eyebrows smugly at Ara. Well, I completely obliterate you in the kitchen, don't I? Ara replied it was just cooking. Anyone can do it, Ara scoffed, pretending she did not care at all. I almost choked on my curry and spat it right at her. So I totally called her out. Ara, have you no shame? Who cooked those noodles last time and gave me terrible food poisoning for 24 hours straight? And of course, Harper and Rowan were desperately trying not to crack up, their shoulders shaking violently from holding it in. To settle who does the dishes, we played rock, paper, scissors. The universe is actually pretty fair. If you ask Ara to win on pure skill, she will obliterate her rivals 100% of the time. But in games of pure luck, her luck stats are absolute garbage. Especially against me, she loses every single round. By the time she finally finished cleaning up the kitchen, Harper had already taken Dumpling out for a walk, while Rowan and I were completely knocked out on the table, taking a massive nap. Warm afternoon sunlight streamed right through the window, shining directly onto my face. Ara quietly dragged a wooden chair over and sat right down next to me. She picked up a notebook from the table and held it up, shading my closed eyes from the harsh glare, and she just sat there, holding it up for a really long time. But as she gently stretched her aching shoulder and looked up, she made eye contact with Rowan, who was fully awake and watching her with this massive, knowing grin. Ara quickly raised a single finger to her lips, telling him to hush. Right then, Rowan realized what we all suspected, that this legendary ice queen actually had an incredibly soft, tender side. He flashed her an okay sign, totally understanding the assignment, and turned his head to go back to sleep. A little while later, Harper returned from walking the dog and shouted that she was back from the hallway. Instantly, Ara dropped her hand like it was on fire. Rowan and I both jolted awake from the noise. Sleepily rubbing my eyes, I slurred my words and asked Ara why she was sitting so close to me. I was just sitting here to watch you drool, she stammered, pointing at the table. She claimed there was a literal puddle on the wood, panicked, grabbed her chair, and bolted back to her original spot. I quickly wiped my chin and checked the table, but I definitely did not drool. She was totally gaslighting me again. Rowan quickly jumped in to cool things down, telling us to get back to studying, and the rest of the day flew by. Soon, it was time to pack up. 4 straight-A students working together turned out to be terrifyingly efficient. By covering for each other and patching up our weak spots, we managed to review the entire curriculum in one day. While waiting at the bus stop, my mom called to ask exactly what time I would finally be back home for dinner. Before hanging up, Rowan's bus arrived, and he called out to Ara. He hopped on and suddenly turned back around, shouting that it really seems like she has a massive crush on Caspian. He joked that girls pursuing boys is infinitely easier than the other way around, before wishing her luck. Ara stayed completely silent. She just quietly watched his bus pull away, a tiny, secret smile slowly blooming on her face. That night, after showering and getting into bed, I was totally ready to celebrate with some gaming, but the second I booted up my computer, my phone started vibrating like crazy. I checked it to find messages flooding into our senior class 3 group chat, named the 4 Ultimate Beauties. Harper had insisted on that ridiculous name because she believed being a beauty was way more prestigious than being a brainiac. Everyone was hyping each other up for tomorrow's exams, but Ara was totally silent. Figuring she was already asleep and would not reply, I waited a minute before tossing my phone aside to get some rest. Suddenly, ding, I did a literal ninja flip, grabbed my phone, and saw a private text from Ara. She wished me good luck, and as the screen lit up my face, my lips curved into a smile matching her emoji. The next day, the seating arrangements for the big exam were strictly based on our previous grades. Naturally, Ara was assigned to exam room number 1, taking seat number 1, but as a transfer student with a starting GPA of exactly 0, I was banished to the very last room, sitting in the absolute last seat. Just like that, the inseparable duo was split into the ultimate top and bottom of the school. You have to love the irony here. When Ara walked into her classroom, it triggered a massive wave of whispers as everyone noted she had finally arrived. People wondered how she looked like a supermodel in a basic school uniform, occupying seat 1 as if she legally owned that desk. And before she even arrived, some secret admirer had already left a premium bottle of juice on her desk with a sticky note, wishing her good luck. As everyone whispered furiously, Ara walked up, glanced at the drink, picked it up, and placed it right on the teacher's podium, offering it to him instead. The teacher picked up the bottle, inspected it, pulled out a tissue to wipe his sweating forehead, and slowly announced that some of the boys in the room really needed to get their priorities straight. Instead of actually studying, you are busy playing butler and serving drinks. Next time, cut the nonsense and put that energy into your books. The entire classroom suddenly erupted into snickers and giggles. Know your place, peasants, he sneered internally while flipping his heavily gelled hair. Meanwhile, my arrival in the absolute worst exam room sparked some major gossip. I heard Caspian is low-key, a genius. Do you think I could copy his answers? He is just so attractive. Honestly, he is my total dream guy come to life. Do you think the Ice Queen would ever hang out with some regular guy? I just tuned them all out, acting like I heard nothing as I found my desk. My spot was tucked away in the darkest, most isolated corner of the classroom, sitting directly behind the reigning champion of last place. I was honestly pretty happy with this setup. Stealth mode was officially activated. Hey, Caspian! Roxy spotted me from across the room and started yelling my name. She was sitting right in the dead center. Looking at her, you would never guess she was a total academic disaster. Externally, she looked completely normal. Why does it have to be her? I tried to ignore her and sat down, but she just pouted, "Why are you ignoring me?" She spun around the moment I sat down. If you want to copy my paper, save your breath because I do not help people cheat. Sometimes, I really was just like Elara, pretty arrogant and completely unapologetic. Roxy burst out laughing. When did I ever say I wanted to copy you? This girl here never cheats. Okay, fair enough. If you did, you probably wouldn't rank dead last every single semester. Right then, the bell rang, and the exam battle began. During the first half, the room was quiet, filled only with the soft sounds of rustling paper and scratching pens. But as time dragged on, these two rooms started looking completely different. Just watch how this plays out. Elara finished her paper with 30 minutes left. Since she couldn't turn it in early, she just faced down on her desk and slept. All the other top students did the exact same thing. But in my room, total chaos. Except for a few desperate kids trying to save their grades, everyone else was basically whispering, humming completely off-key, or drumming on their desks with pens. I could only let out a heavy sigh at the noise. I was still working on my essay, and the distraction was driving me crazy. Come on guys, shut up, we are in an exam. Suddenly, Roxy let out a massive yell that practically gave the entire class, including the teacher, a massive heart attack. Her outburst was incredibly effective. The classroom went completely silent, and that piece actually lasted through all the remaining tests over the next few days. Once the final bell rang, the person at the back of each row had to collect the exams. As I grabbed Roxy's test, I noticed her essay page was completely blank. She had not written a single word. It was so weird. Even if she just wrote down random nonsense, she could have gotten some pity points. I had no idea if she was just incredibly lazy or doing it out of pure spite. Okay, you are all dismissed. The second the teacher gave the go-ahead, Elara was the first one out. Elara, a voice called out behind her. She knew that voice, Thaddeus. Elara pretended not to hear him and kept walking, but Thaddeus ran up and blocked her path with a slimy smile. How did you do? Fine, Elara replied with a quick, cold response, trying to step past him. Did you predict the topics for this afternoon's math exam? Thaddeus kept following her relentlessly. Everyone says you always guess the exact traps the teachers will set. Honestly, why is this guy like sticky gum on a shoe? Just as Era was about to lose her temper, Harper suddenly showed up out of nowhere. Predict the topics? I did. Hey, Mr. Academic Representative, want to hear my guesses? Harper winked at Era, who immediately grabbed the chance to slip away into the crowd. Meanwhile, I finished gathering the tests, went back to my desk, and packed up my things. Suddenly, the room got loud, and guess what? Everyone was staring right at the doorway. Wait, is not that Era? What is she doing in the slums? Who could she possibly know down in this place? Did the exam fry your brain? Right on cue, Era knocked on the door and called out to me at the back. Caspian, hurry up. Her gaze then drifted to the desk in front of me, staring right at Roxy. Era's eyebrows twitched in a quiet but super judgmental frown. I quickly grabbed my bag and walked over, asking what she was doing here. Just passing by, she replied with total nonchalance. Passing by? If my memory serves me, exam room 1 is on the complete opposite side of this school on another floor. Going to homeroom does not bring you anywhere near here. Sometimes, I was incredibly dense. It did not even cross my mind that Era had walked across the whole school just to find me. Why do you talk so much? Too lazy to make up a better lie, she quickly changed the subject. As we walked, Elara casually asked if I was getting used to those academic trenches down there. Honestly, it was pretty agonizing at first. It was so incredibly noisy that focusing on my essay was impossible. But then, Roxy's blank test paper flashed in my mind. I asked if she knew that Roxy girl or what her deal was. It was not the first time another girl's name had slipped past my lips, but this one instantly set off massive alarm bells in her head. Why was I asking about her? She demanded answers, immediately on high alert, asking if Roxy talked to me again. I quickly clarified I was just curious since she left her essay completely blank. I really suspect she's intentionally tanking her exams to stay at the very bottom. But Elara shrugged, asking, so what if she is? She called it the classic edgy rebel trope, saying the girl was likely throwing a tantrum at her parents by ruining her own grades. Elara analyzed this coldly before suddenly freezing in her tracks and pointing a terrifying finger right at my face, warning me to listen closely. She declared that I was forbidden from talking to her. I immediately shot back, asking who exactly died, and made her my boss. Elara smugly reminded me that Uncle Arthur temporarily handed her my legal guardianship while we are at school, which officially makes her my boss. The class leader puffed her chest out, feeling 10 feet tall. Practically everyone we passed in the hallway was either furiously whispering behind their hands or staring us down with unblinking, laser-focused intensity. But we were both so incredibly used to being the center of attention that we just kept bickering, completely ignoring the whispering crowd around us. Rowan was waiting right outside the classroom door, waving his meal card frantically like some stranded survivor who just spotted a rescue helicopter. Let's go right now, I am literally starving to death. And just like that, the 4 great genius minds reunited in the cafeteria, where Elara randomly dropped an obscure math concept she thought might be on the exam. Fast forward to right after the math exam, and trust me, we were practically worshipping her for saving our grades. Elara, you seriously saved my life. Rowan cheered happily, claiming her last-minute review probably boosted his score by at least 10 points, praising her as a literal prophet. That obscure math concept she casually brought up during lunch turned out to be the exact key to crushing that final boss question. Harper cracked open a fresh bottle of juice from the shop, presenting it to Elara with both hands while bowing down in total reverence. She begged her queen to accept the humble offering, but Elara just sighed, asking if a near-perfect score of over 140 was only worth juice. Harper immediately grabbed her hand, promising to treat her to a massive feast instead, telling her to name whatever she wanted. She offered to buy dinner for the whole group, prompting me to instantly throw my hand up and vote for some good old hot pot. Rowan quickly seconded the motion, and once we saw Elara nod, Harper slammed her hand on the table, declaring it was officially decided. A grand hot pot feast was locked in. At last, the grueling 3-day mock exam gauntlet came to a close on Friday afternoon. Everyone let out an enormous collective sigh of relief, immediately followed by the agonizing, soul-crushing torment of waiting for our final grades. Elara lightly kicked my chair from behind, smugly asking how confident I was about actually beating her score. I joked that I was 99% confident, but deep down, remembering her terrifying genius from lunch made me seriously regret my life choices. Seriously, why did my brain short-circuit enough to make that incredibly arrogant bet? But my pride demanded that I stand my ground, so Elara just chuckled softly from behind, saying she would be waiting. The classroom was a chaotic war zone of students arguing over their answers when Old Man Harrison strolled inside and cleared his throat. He announced that since everyone worked hard this week, our afternoon self-study session was officially canceled. Telling us to go outside and play, the entire room erupted into wild cheers of absolute freedom. The old man operated on a strict policy. When it was time to study, you worked, but during playtime, textbooks were strictly forbidden. So it was mandatory fun outside for everyone, though waiting for our grades remained pure psychological torture. Every single time a teacher passed our door, I craned my neck like a giraffe, convinced that Judgment Day had finally arrived. We finally survived until Friday, but when I returned from the restroom before the first afternoon class, Elara's seat was totally empty. The bell rang, still empty. 10 minutes passed. Harper, where on earth is Elara? Harper calmly explained that Elara had gone down to the main office to help the teachers tally up the final exam scores. Tallying scores? I was utterly confused. She explained they needed the official class rankings finished before the weekend. It turned out she, the class president, and Thaddeus went to help calculate the grades. Working alone with Thaddeus, my blood instantly boiled. I slumped back into my seat, completely losing any motivation to study. Those 2 full periods were absolute agony until Elara and Old Man Harrison finally stepped back inside. The teacher spoke in his usual slow, methodical voice, telling everyone to put their pens down because the results were finally ready to be handed out. Even though I knew I wouldn't fail, my palms were sweating absolute bullets, especially when he walked past me with a pretty cryptic, smug smile. A total shiver ran down my spine. Abort mission. Disaster imminent. Old Man Harrison pushed his metal-rimmed glasses up with one finger, his face dead serious as he gave us a brief overview of our class average. He raised his hand, flicked the massive grade stack, and announced that in this exam, our class secured the #1 spot in the entire grade, with exactly 1 student scoring above 700 total points. In the 680 to 700 range, we have 2 students, Julian and Thaddeus. Their performance is highly stable. Hearing that Ara was the only one who conquered that 700-plus tier, I was slightly disappointed, but not surprised. But hearing that I wasn't even in the top 3, my soul literally left my body. I lost, and I lost brutally. My arrogant bragging felt entirely clownish. Old Man Harrison continued, mentioning that another student had also performed quite well. Caspian, 668 points, sitting right behind the top 3. But knowing your potential, you can do much better, so keep pushing next time. The front row literally felt the microscopic droplets of Old Man Harrison's spit raining down on them. Nobody dared to breathe. After a heavy silence, he spoke up again, telling us to review our papers thoroughly as he handed them out. We would have a class meeting next period, and I was absolutely devastated. I had studied like an absolute maniac, and my results were still total garbage. Now I had to be her literal servant for a whole month. Thinking about that nightmare, I face-planted onto my desk, completely devoid of any will to live. Seeing how depressed I looked, Ara knew exactly how crushed I was. This time she didn't kick my chair, but gently nudged it with her hand. At this exact moment, the absolute last person I wanted to perceive was Ara. I didn't want her seeing my face, which felt like it had loser tattooed across it, as she demanded my exam paper. Not only did I ignore her, but I aggressively slapped my hands over my ears. Watch what she does next. Ara let out an exasperated sigh, stood up, and snatched my papers herself. Hey, what are you doing? I snapped, glaring back at her with pure, humiliated fury. Yeah, you scored insanely high, good for you, but why do you need to look at my paper? Just to mock me? Is that really necessary? Ara didn't say a single word, just rapidly scanning my scores for every subject before murmuring that something wasn't right. Your total score is exactly 20 points short, she said, making me instantly shoot up to recalculate everything myself. She was totally right. I was missing exactly 20 points, but I had been too depressed to even suspect a calculation error. I rubbed my eyes in utter disbelief. Was I hallucinating? I got 145 on math. Who the hell tallied these scores? A baboon, Rowan asked, absolutely furious on my behalf while Harper leaned over to enjoy the chaos. Oh snap, Ara, you didn't tally his score, did you? She teased, asking if she was so terrified of Caspian beating her that she sabotaged him. Keep your mouth shut if you don't know how to talk, Ara hissed, shooting her a lethal glare. Ara already knew with 99% certainty who was responsible for this error, as it had Thaddeus's greasy fingerprints all over it. I'm going to Old Man Harrison right now before the official rankings are printed, Ara declared. With that, she grabbed my papers and marched out like an absolute boss, and even though my actual score was 688, still significantly lower than Ara's, my mood was completely restored. Let's be real, taking the initiative is infinitely better than staying humiliated. I turned around and gave Ara a highly dramatic martial arts salute. I deeply thank the great beauty for stepping up and seeking proper justice for me. For the next month, I shall willingly serve as your humble servant, working myself to the bone, though I will skip the dying for you part. Please, show mercy. Oh great campus beauty, I teased, making her dramatically raise her hand with a face of absolute smugness, telling me, good, remain on standby. You are dismissed, she decreed, just as the bell for the next period rang, kicking off our first official class meeting of senior year. After a passionate, fiery monologue, Old Man Harrison proposed a sudden idea. Everyone, take out a piece of paper and write down the specific classmate you want to surpass on the next exam, your long-term goal, and the university you want to attend in exactly 1 year. Then stick it on the back wall when you're done. After graduation, we will see who achieved their dreams. And with that, the classroom instantly exploded into intense debate. People were looking around, locking in their targets, though some had theirs locked in since day one, like Thaddeus, whose target was universally and obsessively Elara. No matter the category, if he could just get into the same university as her, his life would be complete. The only problem was he had no idea where she wanted to go. "Hey, what are your dream schools?" Harper asked our group. She initiated the group chat among the four of us, since her parents basically couldn't care less about her grades anyway. To her parents, failing just meant she could go home and inherit their massive empire. She did not really have any big ambitions either, since her top grades were just a byproduct of her high IQ and being dragged along by Elara. Rowan scratched his head, admitting that getting into medical school was probably just a dream. I gave him a sincere look, saying I believed in him 100%, which made Rowan ask about my goals. Elara did not move, but her ears practically rotated like radar dishes to listen closely as I scratched my chin. I admitted I had not decided, then asked Elara if Q University was her ultimate goal, but she stayed silent. After Elara muttered she had not decided either, our teacher snapped, saying he wanted goals, not some summit. Old Man Harrison violently slammed his hand on the podium to quiet the rising chaos, asking if they needed a committee to decide. He announced parent-teacher conferences this Sunday at 3 p.m. Since this was the first conference of senior year, it was critical that their parents attended. As the final bell rang, the four of us began our usual walk toward the school gates. Harper ran ahead of us, spinning to walk backward, while suggesting hot pot this Sunday to celebrate, since we had completely crushed our exams. Declaring herself queen, she announced she was graciously giving us the ultimate honor of letting her pay. It was pretty obvious she was in a spectacular mood, wearing a highly smug, sassy little smirk. Harper wanted to yell a curse word, but remembering her huge grade boost was thanks to Elara, she quickly swallowed her anger. We locked in the date for Sunday, and after dinner that night, I booted up my PC, ready for some serious gaming. But the exact moment my monitor turned on, my phone buzzed with a message from Elara. She ordered me downstairs, and although I hesitated, I was annoyed she interrupted my gaming time with such a bossy tone. She demanded I get downstairs, stating this was my first official mission. She gave me exactly 5 minutes to meet at our usual spot, leaving me staring at the screen with my thumb hovering. Letting out a heavy sigh, I lamented her sheer audacity, but a bet was a bet, and my life as her servant had officially begun. I grabbed my hoodie. Talk about instant regret, but I ditched my game and ran to the playground nestled right between our apartment buildings. By the time I jogged over, the cool night air and streetlights cast long, soft shadows across the pavement. Elara was already there, sitting quietly on one of the swings. She had swapped her pristine uniform for an oversized graphic tee and sweatpants, looking incredibly small and somehow suspiciously adorable. 4 minutes and 42 seconds, she announced without looking up, scuffing her feet, while calling it barely a passing grade for her servant. I asked Her Majesty what critical, life-or-death emergency we were dealing with. Leaning against the swing-set frame, I watched Elara look up at me, her dark eyes catching the warm amber glow of the streetlight. She pointed a single finger behind her, demanding I push her, which left me blinking in total disbelief. I asked if she dragged me from my PC just for this, but she said servants do not ask questions. They just execute orders, she added, making me laugh as I stepped behind her, grabbed the chains, and gave her a gentle push. I teased that if anyone saw the untouchable Ice Queen demanding playground pushes at 9 p.m., her reputation would be ruined. She quickly shot back that it was a good thing nobody was around, her voice carrying a rare and breezy lightness. We stayed out there for hours, and you can really feel how much they missed this. We kept bickering over who was the superior gamer, and suddenly, all the heavy stress of senior year just completely melted away. It was just the two of us, exactly how things had always been. Sunday hit us with the chaotic energy of a Category 5 hurricane, and by 2:45 p.m., our moms marched out together to form a terrifying alliance at the conference. I silently prayed for poor old man Harrison's sanity, and by 5 p.m., the four of us were officially assembled at the most legendary hot pot spot in the entire city. Harper cheered, celebrating their absolute academic domination, while raising a glass of fizzy plum juice, as Rowan toasted to surviving their first week while dropping a huge plate of beef into the spicy broth. But just as I reached for some meat, a pair of chopsticks shot forward like a swift viper, aggressively clamping down hard on my wrist. Elara shook her head, demanding to know if her servant had permission to eat when her sauce bowl was still completely empty. She ordered extra cilantro and no garlic, causing Rowan and Harper to completely lose it, laughing so hard they nearly choked on their drinks. I gritted my teeth, throwing her my absolute coldest glare, but I still got up and headed straight to the sauce bar. For the next hour, I was running around grabbing napkins and refilling her drinks. I even had to carefully fish out the exact pieces of shrimp paste she wanted from the hot pot. Even though it was pretty humiliating, seeing her actually laugh without that cold armor made being her servant totally worth it. Then, mid-meal, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom. Apparently, Mr. Harrison had just spoken up. He announced to everyone that Thaddeus got caught messing with the office grade spreadsheets. They stripped him of his academic scholarship and gave him a huge warning. Talk about instant karma. After reading the text, I showed the table, and Rowan immediately pumped his fist in triumph. Justice is finally served. I bet his face was completely priceless. Harper scoffed, saying it served him right. He tried to ruin my bestie's romance. He fought the wrong squad. Elara stayed pretty quiet, but that smug, totally satisfied smirk on her face said everything we needed to know. She casually picked up the absolute best piece of cooked beef from her plate and dropped it right into my bowl, imperiously declaring it a reward. It was for my acceptable service. I rolled my eyes, joking she was too kind, while aggressively inhaling the beef. Soon, we stumbled out, our clothes smelling aggressively of chili oil and sweet victory. Harper's driver picked her up, and Rowan caught his bus, leaving Elara and me to walk the rest of the way home. The city was glowing with neon, and an autumn breeze rustled leaves overhead. Walking shoulder to shoulder, a comfortable silence settled between us until I broke the quiet by calling her bobblehead. Amazingly, she didn't even kick me for the nickname. She just glanced over, keeping her hands stuffed in her hoodie pockets. She asked what I wanted, so I brought up Friday's class meeting when old man Harrison made us write down our college goals. Elara suddenly stopped walking. She stared down at her shoes, a faint blush creeping up her neck that had nothing to do with the spicy food, and asked why I cared. She deflected back to her usual defensive mode, pointing out that I hadn't shared my choice either. I blurted out that I only hid it because I wanted to make sure my choice matched hers. The unfiltered words hung heavy in the air. Oh man, talk about a massive slip of the tongue. My brain screamed in pure panic as Era's eyes widened. She looked up at me, with the street lights shimmering softly in her eyes. Her usual icy armor was totally gone, replaced by a warm vulnerability as she whispered that she wrote down Q University. I finally let out a breath I had been holding, a massive, unstoppable smile instantly taking over my face. Q University was the absolute pinnacle, the single hardest school in the country to get into. I stepped closer, telling her it was perfect because that was my exact choice. Elara let out a small, breathless laugh and lightly punched my arm. She warned me to study hard, because if she got in and I did not, she was absolutely not waiting for me. I scoffed and affectionately bumped her shoulder, claiming I would easily score much higher than her on the actual exam. I joked that she would be my servant next year. She called me a loser, and we kept walking. Any distance between us totally gone. Walking under the canopy of the autumn trees, I casually reached out and took hold of her hand. She went stiff for just a split second before her fingers naturally intertwined with mine. Her grip was tight and reassuring. We did not need any dramatic declarations or some cliché movie-style confession. We were Caspian and Elara. We had 17 years of history behind us and an entire lifetime ahead. With her next to me, I knew our future was going to be absolutely epic.